Welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I want to sort of summarize a lot of the thinking that I've done over the course of the last couple of shows that I've done and I'm going to be doing on artificial intelligence, because I think this is probably the number one issue from a societal standpoint that we're confronted with, even though it seems like we've got lots of others, whether it be, whether Mississauga should separate from Peel, whether we should, who should we select as mayor of Toronto, whether we have a housing crisis, inflation, will we have a recession, where are interest rates going, will the debt ceiling in the United States be increased, or will it lead to catastrophic financial ramifications? What's going to happen to the war in Ukraine? What about China? The number of issues go on. But none of those issues can change human life, human existence. I forgot climate change in that list. But even climate change, I don't think is as transformative as artificial intelligence. I interviewed Murray Simpson last week, and he's a technology wizard. He's an entrepreneur from Silicon Valley and from Seattle. And he said that he thought that artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, large language learning, large language models, etc., were as transformative to the human existence as the Gutenberg printing press was. And before the Gutenberg printing press, the Pope, the priests, the kings, etc., controlled everything. And after that, we had the Renaissance, we had the Reformation, we had a breakdown of the church from just one Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, into numerous different Protestant religions. We had the Protestant faiths. We had the Industrial Revolution. We had newspapers. We had books written and printed in languages of the choice. We had the Bible recited in languages of the choice and printed such that people could read it and study it and decide on their own. Human existence changed. I do think that just the invention of computers and the internet was probably pretty transformative. I remember going to computer science classes with a stack of punched cards or cards that you had penciled in little numbers on and running the program, and it was a pretty rudimentary program. We did not have, when I went to high school and university, at least my undergrad university, we didn't have computers, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have search capabilities. We were supposed to buy typewriters and learn how to type on typewriters. When I went to my master's, it was the first group ever given laptops. And again, they were rudimentary laptops. We had two different disk drives. We had to put the program in one disk drive and what we were doing in the other disk drive because the computer had very little, if no memory on its own. The world changed after that with the power of computers, the power of internet, etc. Murray was talking about ChatGPT, large language models, etc., being as transformative to the human existence as the printing press, the invention of electricity, the creation of a wheel, etc. And that's scary, but it's exciting. Tonight, I've got a really interesting interview with a brilliant guy by the name of Jeff Mendelson, who is probably one of the most experienced people from the management of creative industries that Canada has, and that I've ever had the privilege of meeting, working with the National Ballet, with the Opera Canada, the Banff Centre of Arts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's excited about the impact of large language models on human creativity, and doesn't think it will stifle it at all. And tomorrow I've got a really interesting interview with a gentleman I met when I was last out in Alberta, Corey Jensen. He runs numerous different private equity groups. A private equity group that invests in and runs numerous different companies on the creation of artificial intelligence in different businesses. And he talks about it, that he's in the more rudimentary, trying to figure out how to use artificial intelligence for the benefit of productivity and efficiency and companies, et cetera. But that's probably where, it's going to be exploited most quickly and earliest. And some of these big concerns that other people are worried about will take a little bit longer to materialize, maybe. And then, interesting enough, this weekend, The Economist magazine had a piece that was really fascinating by an author that I have a lot of time for, Yuval Noah Harari, who is a historian and a philosopher from Israel. He's written three incredibly good books, Homo Sapiens, Homo Deus, which is, Homo Sapiens was about the past, Homo Deus is about the future. And then he wrote something about the lessons for the 21st century, which is about the present, which I really found interesting. If you have a chance to read this gentleman, I highly recommend it. I wanted to read you what he wrote just this weekend. Language is the stuff almost all human culture is made of, writes Yuval Noah Harari, a historian and philosopher. In a recent by-invitation essay, Religion, Human Rights, Money. These are the things are not inscribed in our DNA and require language to make sense. In his essay, Mr. Harari poses the question, what would happen once a non-human intelligence becomes better than the average human at telling stories, composing melodies, drawing images, and writing laws and scriptures? The answer, he believes, casts a dark cloud over the future of human civilization. The Economist says we've spent a lot of time thinking about the staggering potential of language-focused artificial intelligence tools. We recently published a cover package that considers how to worry wisely about AI. We've written about how large creative AI models will transform lives and labor markets, explained why it is too soon to be fearful about an AI-induced jobs apocalypse, and considered how good China can get at generative AI. On balance, we believe that properly regulated, the new generation of AI tools can be a net positive for humans. But I will leave the last word to Mr. Harari. We should regulate AI before it regulates us. We should regulate AI before it regulates us. And his article is titled, AI has hacked the operating system of human civilizations. It's, incredibly scary stuff. And lots of people, including, top scientists and business people in the sector, have written this open letter that we all read probably a week or two ago about let's take a break, let's take a pause and think about AI before we spend too much time and money on it, and the idea of regulation. But I want to step back for a second and think about, what if someone had said we should regulate the printing press? What would have happened? It would have been the church and the kings that would have regulated the printing press and would have said only things that we want to have printed will be allowed to be printed. What if someone had regulated the use of the internet and computers when they were first invented? Would that have actually been good for society? Maybe what you need is a marketplace competing for which are the best new ideas, whether it be the printing press used for printing the Bible or political pamphlets or novels or, whatever. Whether you need the internet to be of use just for the American military, as I guess it was initially, or whether it's for people to use it to exchange Instagram photos. And the marketplace, people, democracy, the free enterprise system, etc., ends up exploiting it over time the way it most wants to. And I guess the other thing that I've been thinking about, and I'm obviously far from an expert on this, but when you think about, and I've interviewed several people on this topic, about what large language models do, what they do is they predict the next word, the next concept from what they've read in trillions and trillions and trillions of prior things that have been written and are accessible in their large databases. And so what that would suggest to me is that they average things out. They become the predictable. They become what would be the vast majority of people would say in that circumstance. But I think the true secret to innovation, the true secret to human existence, to creativity, is that sometimes you have that out of the box thinking. And I can kind of think that the out of box is the right metaphor, because it's out of the computer box, out of the computer. I think that humans sometimes, often in interaction with other humans, so it's not necessarily just on their own, but they come up with brand new, creative, interesting ideas. And so I wonder whether it's the idea that, if you asked a whole bunch of people during the era of horse-drawn carriages what they would have wanted more faster horse-drawn carriages, not a Model T car. And it took Henry Ford to discover this idea of a car. Would we have invented the internet, or did we just want typewriters that worked better? I think that if all you are in a large language model is looking at predicting what's going to be said or the concept that comes next based on what you've read in trillions and trillions of other databases, you're not going to come up with the new most innovative thing. And so and again, I'm not the expert here. I'm just, someone that listens to people and interviews them. I think that actually human creativity, out of the box thinking, could be better than that. That said, if I can, in going to ChatGPT, rather than searching and reading a whole bunch of things and page after page after page, trying to find that sample, that idea, that concept, that example from the past that I wanted to use, could just say, write me a speech or give me a good memo or something like that, I would be more productive. I would then take it and amend it and add my own flavor to it, etc. So it can't be the end result. It should be just a way of starting the process. And so therefore people, and Murray was one of them that talked about it being super search on steroids. And so if all ChatGPT and large language models is super search on steroids, I guess that's good. And I think it could lead to productivity and efficiency. And if it doesn't do out of the box thinking, if it doesn't do something abnormal because it's always predicting the normal based on all of its data sets, how can it take over things the way some people are worried about it? So I think we've got to balance this desire to regulate, which too often to me sounds like censorship and control by the powerful and the oligarchs and the elites, with the desire, the need to have freedom and open it up and really think, I think, seriously about if we go back in history, if we went back in history and allowed the elites to regulate the printing press, and they probably tried to, if the elites had regulated the printing press, we wouldn't be, I don't think, where we are today. We may not have had democracy. And so therefore, I think we've got to be careful about stamping out the innovation opportunity from ChatGPT, large language models, etc. And I think we have to think through whether or not the way that I understand large language models that predict the next word or the next concept based on what they've read before, won't that mean that everything they do is the average, the center of the road, and you're not going to ever get out of the box thinking? Anyway, if nothing else, these three sessions that I've done with Murray Simpson last week on really the technological advances and how it's impacting democracy. Today with Jeff Melanson on creativity, and tomorrow where I have a really interesting conversation that talks about it in detail, ChatGPT and artificial intelligence in detail, and then really gets into how Corey Jansen and his private equity group are exploiting the current efficiency opportunities in large language models, ChatGPT, artificial intelligence. We need to talk to people like this. We need to think about the opportunities. We need to confront this coming new technological change that could be as transformative as the printing press, and think about whether it needs to be regulated or needs to be given freedom. That's the show for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody.